Why not?
Talk about.
Why not talk about?
Talk about OTTs. Why Not is a group of friends tackling topics big and small and giving their 2 cents. My name is Isaac. I'm a television producer out in Korea right now. And
Yay, Isaac.
I'm with my 2 friends, LINA and NARI.
Hello, everyone. Lena here. Isn't that kind of confusing for our listeners? Lena and Nari.
I feel like it should be Nari and Lena, but that's just me.
Wow, this is
Or
going
I
on
can
for a
combine
while.
the 2 of you. Call you Li-Nari.
Oh.
That's just my name.
Her full name is Nari.
Nari.
Yeah, okay. So I guess that's our introductions. Nari, what do you do for a living?
Yes, I am a Arirang regular. I'm a writer, but now I'm not, I guess.
You're also a producer, and you also do a pretty cool side project about space.
Yes.
That's right, space and the environment. And Lena, everyone's heard her voice. If you are a fan of Arirang, any English broadcasting,
Are you tired, Nari? Because last time you sounded so much more enthusiastic about my introduction. I don't know why I'm not just introducing myself. Hi, I'm Lena.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Isaac.
Well, today we're going to be talking about why not talk about OTTs, right?
Yeah. You know it. You love it. You probably use it.
What is OTT?
Yeah.
So OTT, basically, over the top is what it's an acronym for.
Lena is so OTT.
She's over the top.
What is happening?
I'm sorry.
No, thank you.
As content used to be on linear channels, and we had to kind of had to go to some hoops and hurdles that over time become easier, but in the initial, there's a lot of restrictions.
Yep.
Content has become more accessible to people through basically any, anybody with a connection, with the internet
connection. You're right.
You can go on your smartphone or the internet and just over the top of any kind of connectivity, you can get your content.
That's why it's called OTT. I mean, I guess more colloquially, we could just call them streaming services, right?
Yes, that's
Same
right.
thing?
Yep.
Yep, and there's so many now streaming services that it just became a thing where we are all subscribing to something, and it's becoming more and more feeling like a war.
A little bit. Have you heard of the streaming wars, guys?
Exactly. So because it's like it's kind of like a friendly war. As war can be friendly.
I kind of love how Isaac is, setting the stone. Like, it could be friendly.
Because think about it.
It's fierce.
It's fierce, but from an audience perspective, it's like the best time because it's like peak content. There's content everywhere.
More options.
There's, if you're a content creator, there's so many more outlets and so many more buyers that will pay for your content. So in a way, it is a war on a business sense, but
for consumers, maybe it's not such a bad thing, and it could be considered.
It can be.
I beg to differ.
Friendly.
Very good. Yes.
Why? Because do you not like a lot of options? Because that's also an argument being posed. Do
It's
humans
just
really
too
like
much.
Too many choices.
Too many choices. Too much content.
Yes.
And too much distribution.
Right. That's called first world problems. So
Oh my goodness.
having too much.
Nari problems.
What?
But I wanted to ask
object.
you. I want to ask you guys, of those plethora of choices, what OTT services or do you subscribe to? Do you guys like?
Is that our lead question?
Yes, I want to ask. Like, what is it that you put your hard-earned, 2 cents and actually pay for?
I actually share 3 different platform accounts with my family members. So I made sure that I don't pay for all 3 because that sounded just monumentally expensive. And so I subscribe to 3. But I was really careful about my choices because I realized that there would be more additions come next year. We're getting more options, and I just don't want to bleed money.
Yeah, I only pay for 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
But use how many?
Only 2.
Only 2? Oh, okay.
Good answer.
Well,
I have a hunch she's not
I
telling the
pay for
truth.
what I watch.
right. And of those choices, 2 versus 3. And then I use about 4. So
What?
2, 3,
Really?
4, ding dong dang.
Oh.
But yeah, so
Wait,
there
what?
are
What? I just missed something. What was that?
there's 4 that I actually actively use.
Okay.
But again, that's not everybody. Obviously, and then there's also a lot more than 4 that you can actually pay for. So
Yep.
if you have an unlimited budget, there's many ways to get the content fix that you know.
Many ways to distract yourself from like your real job and getting things done and productivity. I mean, there's a substantial amount of contents out there. Why do you ask that question? How many subscriptions we have, though?
Because I wanted to talk about I wanted to ask you guys if of those choices, right? 4, 3, 2, and of just objectively of all the many OTT platforms and services out there, is there an objective winner in your opinion?
I think there's a subjective winner.
Yeah,
I mean,
would
because
agree.
it's a number game, right? I mean, if you talk about the quality of contents, like we can go there, but I mean, like you said, it's a business, a for-profit company who has the most number of subscriptions. That should be one measuring stick, right? And in that race, Netflix is winning. I mean, that's just a headline, right?
Okay.
I mean, do you have the numbers here to back yourself up?
I do. In the second quarter of 2021, Netflix added 1.5 million net new subscribers globally.
Compared to every other platform, please.
Yeah. So I
please.
can't do that. And then 4.4 million more in the third quarter. And that's important because they're leading the race in a sense that others are just trying to catch up in that measuring spectrum. Right. I'm not saying one is better than the other. That's entirely subjective.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Subjectively, then, how about your personal
I feel like this is not where you're supposed to be taking us. I would like to get back to...
She doesn't want him to choose between the two.
I know.
Why
I don't want to choose.
Is it because you love them both?
I
equally?
love my... my OTT platforms. I love them both equally.
Well, then how did you choose 2 out of like the plethora of options?
Oh, well, there was another one that I would like, but it's not available in Korea.
Oh, okay.
Availability.
Okay. Right, it's still restricted, right?
Do you like how evasive we're being?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was hoping for a little bit more honesty, but I guess it would,
I think that's to you, Nari.
Oh, well, I actually wanted to hear a really dramatic statement or question posed to us, and then a dramatic,
Okay.
thing.
Then the dramatic question I have for you is, in this, peak content age where all these platforms and all these options are available, that old phrase, the question, content is king, is that still true? Is content still king? Welcome back. You are talking with Isaac, Lina, and Nari, and we are talking about OTTs.
Woohoo! That's right. I guess it's such a big topic. We do have to narrow it down to, I guess, smaller questions, or at least smaller chunks.
I love it. Is content still king? Is it?
That's what we were...
Can I just say yes? What do you mean? I mean, what is this all for? Isn't the podcast all about content?
Yeah.
Good content?
Yeah.
Yes. So I agree. Content is king.
Who
I
is
think it's
content's
still valid.
competitor?
The competitor is itself.
Exactly.
So I think that's my opinion too.
Yeah.
I think that content it's peak content. It's content is king. Content is everything and all that jazz. But what good is that content? What good is that content if your audience can't see it? So previously, Nadi, you mentioned a little bit about how there's a favorite platform that you have that you don't have access to, and that's kind of what it's connected to, right? If you love content but you can't get it because it's on some platform that is restricted in your area, or these complications that come about, even though objectively content is king, there are other issues that we have to deal with in order to get that content.
Yeah, so I guess content is still king, but not really, because he's exactly right. If I can't get that content, which I know I love, from looking at like a certain distributor's website, like I know I love that content, but I can't get it. So then it isn't king.
Well,
right.
Well, I was actually, I wanted to ask you guys, like, what of throughout the year, during this pandemic, what was some of the favorite content that you guys enjoyed, that you could share with us?
I would just like to throw it out there that Nadia and I are both outliers. We just don't represent the masses, because I know the answers you're looking for, and I also did watch it because that's part of my job. Like Squid Game, for example, I just started Hellbound because these are Korean contents that are making waves across the world, and that's impressive, right? But that's not my cup of tea. It's not my thing. I actually, registered with certain platforms for
Work.
particular shows. No.
Oh, okay.
For a particular, not for work.
I do that for work.
See, that's actually a pretty good guess, but no, I'm not that professional apparently. And
Apparently.
I literally did it for my peace of mind and to connect with my more American friends, for example. Long before Squid Game, there were certain sitcoms and inside jokes that I wanted to refer back to. It was nostalgia ridden. So I did it for that. And those are the contents I keep revisiting.
Yeah, I think for me too, same. I mean, mostly I do it for work, Lena. But, the content that I am looking for is a lot of comedy. Just because for me, that's just a break away from everything. But also, the comedy code for every country is so different because it's so deeply embedded in their culture, right? So a lot of even the hardest movies to translate, when they film in different areas, it's comedies because humor is different for every culture, right? So for me, I think I watch a lot of comedy shows. That's the content I like. Yeah. And the turn off my brain and watch.
Binge watch.
Yeah, binge watch like a banshee. I like big action, big everything, big boom boom. Boom boom meaning action, not other stuff.
Like big cinematic universes.
Yeah, sure.
That too.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, I noticed too, when
Isaac likes rom-coms.
I do.
No.
I do. Why? Is
all
that
the
weird?
years.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah.
All the years I've known you, I just didn't realize. That was
really?
your go-to genre. No.
Well, I don't know. Okay. I like them. I don't know if they're. When you say go-to, it's
like our comedy, a love of comedy.
okay. I can give you that. Most recently,
90s rom-coms.
Most recently, I went. On the OTT apps, if you push an app, you start a movie and you don't finish it, it's in a separate list called "Continue Watching" or something.
Yeah.
So I'll give it to you because I went in and I went through 4 rom-coms that I liked that I started just so that they'd be on that list.
Yeah, because there's no other way to track it.
It is, right? Instead of me searching. So next time I feel like it, I could turn it on. Yeah.
Aww.
But I end up watching the other stuff, the sci-fi and the real serious dramas more. But rom-coms, I still have a special part, a special place in my heart for them. That's why I keep them.
What was your more recent favorite? Is it really 90s rom-com you keep going back to?
Yeah, I mean, can I mention them? I could recommend. I could be the
rom-com whisperer.
No, but the 90s I think were really good.
Really
time.
good,
Yeah,
right?
were.
But I mean, now you're talking about Hollywood flicks, then, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. See, this is what I mean by we are outliers. I feel like the answer is that perhaps some of our listeners want to, relate to is Squid Game. What's the story behind that success? Hellbound. Why are we gravitating towards these really dark, gloomy contents? It's not just the Korean contents, right? I mean, was it Money Heist, a Spanish TV show that got a lot of attention worldwide too? Yeah.
So. I mean, a lot of the shows, definitely, I think that when the news hits, even if you watch a lot of Korean dramas, or if you watch a lot of Hollywood dramas, everybody watches based on their, tastes. But then when it hits the news, I think there's a lot of crossing over. And I think people...
What do you mean, obligation?
Maybe obligation, but
for work?
Can we move on?
Sorry.
She's really bitter.
I know, right?
My time, I had to watch this. But because of that, because of the news factor, I mean, I find myself watching, genres of or content that I'm not necessarily always into, just because you have to know what's going on.
Can we just mention again that he is a production executive at a very big platform. So he knows what he's talking about. So yeah. And also for Isaac, apparently, for work, he'll go through a lot of content. He has to watch everything kind of to know what's trending.
I remember him recommending these K-pop stars, the making of documentaries because he was behind the creation of one of the famous ones. And I was like, Isaac, you really want me to watch this? What is happening? I've moved on from showbiz Korea a while ago, but and it is part of our job. So maybe we don't just represent the masses because we kind of do it out of duty, obligation, as you said. Yeah.
And in content, as it is king, meaning there's so much of it, and it kind of permeates all aspects of our life. And the choices that we have, like there's too much, and we don't have the time, the bandwidth to handle all of it. But because of that, how has it affected your guys's
I sleep never.
Sleep patterns?
But I do have to clarify. Nari slept never prior to the existence of these streaming giants. You can't just blame them for ruining your schedule somehow. But I think she raises a good point, though. There was a term for it, Nari, that you mentioned, right? It's like after a long day's work, I want to binge watch to reward myself.
It's revenge bedtime procrastination. This is a real thing that started. I mean, even in China, several years ago, that's where it kind of started, where people were they had this whole day and they had work or whatever happened during the day, and then at night they were I need time for myself. So it wasn't just let me relax. It was intentional procrastination with revenge on their whole day.
And the thing is, the irony is, you need your eyes open to watch or binge watch these shows, and you're so tired that your eyelids are slowly shutting, but no, I'm gonna watch this. If you're asking me, it's crazy.
Huge problem. It's a huge problem. It's been covered on all the major outlets, all the major papers. This is a problem, and it all stems from OTT.
And have streaming giants, have they commented on this? Because I feel like they're really proud of the fact that they've kind of coined the binge watching term.
Yeah, binge watching. We were never able to do that before, right?
Yeah.
Until the OTTs came in and used that as kind of an appeal factor.
It's funny, they do these extensive research into what we binge watch and for how long, and it's they're so proud of that. And it's
well, time is one of the things that they want from us as consumers. They would rather us watch on their platform, on their
I can't believe it. I feel so betrayed.
I feel like not too long ago, we had a very similar conversation with social media outlets, right? Because there are clear benefits of social media outlets. They, at one point, reunited, long lost family members, and there were, reconnecting people too. And then we've moved on to, are there ethical grounds that they've crossed over? And maybe these streaming giants are not having those conversations in detail, but soon enough, we're going to start asking those bigger questions too. Binge watching, does it have bigger, major health consequences?
Right.
It does,
the only way
that,
the only way that binge watching actually takes place is it has to have something that people want to watch.
Content is king.
Content has to be watch-worthy, right?
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
If it's my time.
Okay, I am raising my hand because although I agree that content is king, it's sometimes when I'm in that mode, that revenge procrastination mode, I don't even care what I'm watching.
No, really?
I just need something on to be see? I get my own me time. I'm making time for myself. Meanwhile, it is totally cutting into my sleep schedule. And Lena's right. It's pretty non-existent. But even the non-existent couple hours, I'm I have to watch this. And I don't even know what it is. And I'll just be playing it, binging it, and not even really focusing, but just to have it on.
After all that binging, how do you feel afterwards, though? That's, I think, really important.
Are we in a psychologist's office? It kind of feels like it, yeah.
I like it.
I do.
I feel like
it does
he needs a couch in here.
Yeah, how does that make you feel, Nari?
It makes me sad.
But does it really, though?
It doesn't. I feel this. It's very gratifying.
That's awesome.
I've accomplished more.
By finishing
binge watching. Bad.
By binging the whole thing in the night.
I won the night.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, this is a problem.
It's an accomplishment.
It is not.
It's
I mean, I'm waffling. I'm sorry, but it's not good for your health, but kind of it is, because it's my physical health suffers, but my mental health is so happy.
That's actually a good point. I mean, if you strike the right balance, maybe it doesn't have to be such a disastrous thing. But in this conversation topic, content is king.
Well, content, it's well known, I guess. It's been well reported, let's say, that content is king. And I saw one of my friends post on her social media. It was very interesting. They said, content is king, but distribution is God. Welcome back to Why Not Talk About OTT.
OTT. We just left out talking about content being king, but one-upping content is distribution.
You're here with Isaac, Lina, and Nari.
He just ignored your whole thing. Yes, it's Isaac, Lina, and Nari.
Wait, we're going to do that every little segment.
We got to do this every
My
segment.
apologies. Nari, Lina, and Isaac in the studio talking about, well, OTT services.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and that quote was very interesting to me because, content is king, but
And
distribution is God.
Yes, that is...
That was the interesting thing, because the streaming
powerful.
war has really come. It's kind of like it's left that physical battlefield and it's gone into like a metaphysical battlefield, and it's the underlying kind of the business model of streaming and OTTs is linked to it, and it's like beyond what most people as consumers of the content would think about.
I mean, did this happen after like distribution is God? Does that work with linear TV? And by linear, we mean like TV with scheduled content, right? So what we were used to back
on
in
TV
the
networks,
Middle
and
Ages.
cable
But
channels. Wow.
okay, not the Middle Ages, Lina. Relax.
I don't know. I mean, that was really offensive. It's like what you grew up on. But anyway.
Yes, that's what we grew up on. Lina, the latter half. But so was that even part of the equation when it was linear TV?
I think it was. I think this sentiment, depending on where you're coming from, right? Like for some people, when you hear that, you might be like shocked, like, oh my gosh, distribution, that makes sense. And it was something that you might not have thought about or even was aware about, aware of. But in reality, it's been like that. It's just we have more visibility in it, I think, because of all of these
streaming giants competing against each other.
Yeah.
And it's in our face, it's in our news. People
true.
It's in the zeitgeist, right? Like everybody is aware of it, and so it's become more prescient.
So you think it's the same sort of business model that predates to, according to Nari, medieval times? But we
did they have TVs back then?
I have no idea. What were they made out
Move
of?
on, everyone.
I can't. I'm going to
Just
dwell.
move on.
Dwell.
What iPhone was that back then when you were in the medieval times?
What kind of smartphone did we use back then?
Well, the same one I'm using now, apparently, because my phone is very, very old.
Okay, so I'll jump on that boat. So maybe this whole idea, distribution being God, it's not a new concept, but we're talking about it a little bit more, and I do wonder, is there a lesson to be learned then? What is the big takeaway then?
So I mean, obviously, like we talked a little bit about Squid Game and how that was a huge phenomenon across the world because it had distribution globally, right?
Yeah, right.
And OTT platforms, by their nature or by their intention, do have that kind of appeal that you have content that can be distributed globally.
Ooh, yeah. So if that was just on our terrestrial
local channel,
like
it
local
might
broadcasters, it might not have, but also, just because it was on this international platform, does it mean that it was guaranteed this huge international spot?
Nothing's guaranteed. Nothing
is guaranteed, but timing, the beauty of timing is it can be manipulated to maybe reach people at the right time.
And
when we're bored, for example, during the pandemic.
And OTTs, they provide a lot of they take down a lot of the barriers to entry for access to this content.
Yeah.
But my point would be that even though that is an obvious case, there are other examples of shows that were able to kind of break barriers and make news and become a global phenomenon. And some of them they were strictly through linear channels, like the traditional methods of distribution. There's a very famous show. It was broadcast in Korea, and it became a huge hit in the United States.
So it was licensed there, right?
Yes, and at one point it was like the top-rated, like
like
variety
a drama?
entertainment show,
like a TV drama,
variety entertainment show.
Oh, okay.
Audition program. Oh no, it's a singing competition.
It's a
singing competition. Yes.
Keep track.
Yeah, but interesting thing about that is that it wasn't through some sort of OTT platform where it was like picked up or people. It wasn't that kind of distribution that allowed that program to get there.
And I think Isaac actually sent us like a link to that where it was like,
you checked it out? Okay.
I read all your links.
I read all your links.
You read all the links, but you don't read all my messages. I still see that one sometimes.
Yeah, I don't read your messages, but I do read the reference links. And that it was a good story. The guy who actually wanted the rights or acquired the rights later, he saw it playing in like Thailand, right?
He saw it in a Thai restaurant.
Yeah.
So it was a Korean show that got adapted in Thailand, and it was made into a Thai version of it. And this person in America saw it at a Thai restaurant in America on the Thai network that was distributing it on television. So he goes into the restaurant and he's like waiting for his food and he sees this show and it's like, what is this? And that's where it kicked
just
off.
in case you guys are wondering, it's a show where singers come on and they sing to
an audience
in different costumes and masks
and pretty flamboyant masks, right?
Yep.
And it's so
very well made.
It's so striking that it gets your attention. Usually, they build a character around it too, right?
So that example is just one of how where regardless of whether it's OTT, traditional, even if it's like film circuits, like distribution has always been a very important factor. And what the OTT platforms have done is just taken that to the high tech or the digital form of it and allowing it to become accessible in our smartphones.
Yeah.
So I guess, something that we can build off of that is, there is a clear distinction, though, as to how quickly we can, take our contents to different parts of the world with these streaming services or OTT, as opposed to these linear models, which takes more time. Because even what you mentioned, right, that lovely coincidence of, the Thai restaurant and someone seeing a recreation of something great, like that takes time, right?
Sure.
More time. And it is about speediness and the right timing these days, too. So there are, I think, bigger benefits. More obvious ones with streaming giants, right? Faster, it could be. If in other words, if there's a intent or a decision to go, definitely could be faster. Right?
Yeah.
The only problem, though, is because, as you mentioned earlier about your favorite network that you can't access in Korea, there's some platforms, OTTs, that are not available.
Yeah.
And you want them, but you can't get access to them. There's a lot of the big players in like the Hollywood content creators.
Yep.
That content studios, their content is sometimes difficult to access in Korea. But likewise, there's a lot of Korean content that is difficult to access in America.
Yeah.
So, and not just America, but around the world. There's a lot of Korean dramas and especially the variety shows, the non-scripted stuff. There's a lot of that just people don't have access to if you're not living in Korea. Have you ever been on, you click on a link and it'll say, it's not
available
in your region?
In your area, yeah.
Isn't it heartbreaking?
Yes.
And you're thinking, really?
Arirang is available in, so many countries around the world, I would like to say.
Oh, wow. I did not know that.
That is
wink, wink.
ridiculously
Really? That's amazing.
It's true.
Wink,
I'm not
wink.
even making it up.
My mind is blown today.
Cool.
All right, moving on.
Thanks, guys.
So, but that kind of limitation on distribution is something that, some people, because of that, they have to go, do VPNs. They use that. They get around it somehow. Other people, they just can't watch it.
I know this isn't part of what you were going to go over, but I have a question about VPNs. Okay, so are they legal?
Yeah, what would be illegal about that?
No, I don't know, because
accessing or utilizing a VPN that's not of your country to kind of break into
is that
these
illegal?
loopholes.
To use that loophole?
Do we have a legal expert that we could
let
dial up?
I thought you had all the answers,
No,
Isaac.
far from it.
Yeah.
But we assume that's a pretty gray area, right? We feel uncomfortable doing it.
I believe in Korea, though, because Korea is pretty much a free country, right? Last I checked, you have freedom to use the VPNs.
This is a dangerous conversation,
isn't it? Because we don't really necessarily have the answers.
Yeah,
right.
That's true.
So there's only so much rules or legislation that can be done, and there's always loopholes. But I think that a lot of especially the private companies, when they find out that people are using VPNs or something like that and they don't want to do it, they find ways to work around whatever workaround you did. It's like one-upping each other until there's some law that may make it illegal. And if that happens, which it hasn't happened, until then, I don't think it's illegal.
It's a gray area, though, isn't it? There's a reason why we feel slightly uncomfortable talking about it, I think.
Yeah,
I feel uncomfortable.
I don't, but I didn't
because
think
I don't know if I can condone it or
right.
Where do I stand on it?
Well, I didn't think it. Then, just to clarify, I didn't think that they were illegal.
Okay,
so,
well,
NARI,
I did a quick search,
Yeah.
and it depends on what country you are and what you're actually using, what the purpose of your VPN is. because it's not illegal to have one.
Okay.
But if you're accessing, let's say, contents halfway across the world that is not available in the country you're in right now, then I feel like that's a really great area.
That is a really
Is that-
gray area.
is
So it
it- does it
depends
say?
on what country, like the laws of like whatever country that you're actually acquiring these VPNs.
We
According
did
to
not
the
clear the
internet.
air.
I think that just says that it's not illegal. So
Yeah.
it's a gray area. Yes, all that is true, but bottom line is it's not illegal. Otherwise, we wouldn't.
Yeah, and I'm looking at
wouldn't
Norton
be-
sites, so like it's kind of like you can. In most Western territories, it's very legal to use
Oh,
VPNs.
right.
It depends on the country, and
Right.
once again, it depends on the purpose. But yeah, like I've always wondered kind of about that, and it's good to kind of clear the air. They're not illegal, folks.
So because of all these like complications, the legal question, how do I, you really want to watch the show, you don't have access to it. What are my options? I think that the follow-up line to my friend's post on social media of content is king, distribution is God was,
Yeah.
Therefore, we need a hero. Welcome back to Why Not Talk About OTT.
OTT.
OTT. Up to now, we've been talking about content is king, distribution is God, and now we need a hero. You're with Isaac, Lena, and Nari.
Yay.
What's the hero?
So a lot of people say that OTT is the hero, But the reason why is because the history of where OTT comes from is very interesting. We talked a little bit about linear TV. We talked about So after
Cable.
yeah,
Oh, wait, is
exactly.
cable still linear?
Cable is linear, but cable came after. So there was the generation of free TV, and then cable came in, where the subscription model where you pay for TV.
Yep.
Free TV.
Yeah, it still kind of exists, but
Terrestrial channels?
in Korea that
Yep.
would be that would be the classification. But as cable programs and as cable channels became more and more prevalent and important, all the great content started to kind of
Shift to cable.
towards that direction. We see that when people talk about like the terrestrials versus the cable, content, even in Korea, it's very similar across the globe.
It's usually because, cable, the paid-for networks have more freedom to kind of cross boundaries with what kind of contents they can create usually. That could be a number of different reasons, right? Restrictions, like age restrictions, for example, for certain contents. And so we naturally gravitate towards something that has much more creative freedom
Yeah.
than the more restrictive older channels, maybe.
And likewise, from free TV to cable, and that jump, there was a jump from cable to OTT.
And you think it's remarkably similar, the pattern that's happening.
It seems like it, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, okay. OTT is our hero, so apparently.
Really?
was.
Have we decided? Or, because
Well,
I feel like
Isaac
there's a...
decided.
No, I think there's a
No,
whole
there's-
backstory. Like maybe we
Right.
can elaborate a little bit more.
Yeah, that would be good because every hero has a great backstory.
Right, and sometimes the
Do
hero,
they?
They do.
sometimes the hero ends up becoming the villain.
Dun dun dun.
Oh, great minds. No, really though. The lines are blurry, right? And even in the great stories, if you live long enough, heroes turn out to be villains. Villains have heroic tales too before they become villainous. It could be a cycle.
Yeah, a lot of people think that the whole streaming idea of streaming OTT, it started like everyone is like, oh, it started around the pandemic. And it didn't.
No.
It's been around. It just
Yep.
never got that kind of love and attention as it did when people were stuck indoors.
And especially in Korea, I think that obviously Korea is a very different climate entertainment wise than like the United States, where a lot of these platforms started. And back during the cable age, and which is cable is still very strong, but cable was very expensive, and I've living in Korea, I've never felt like cable here is expensive.
It was
but
relatively affordable.
it's pretty cheap here, right?
The
Yeah.
packages.
But in America, cable is really expensive, like over $100 per month just on getting all these access, channels.
Is it still that way? Because as we started getting more like telecommunications giants into the mix, then everything kind of started becoming a package with your phone or with the family, or broadband. You get internet and satellite, or internet and like TV. So
is it the same in the United States?
So each channel, like, right, it was the content was scattered. So it was like you either pay for this channel and then you didn't get this show or this, you know. So they bundled it all together, and then those prices just kept going up and up and up. You know, like, you know, technically, if you tried to pay for everything individually, it would have been more expensive.
Right.
But they were like, you know, oh, so we'll bundle it all up for you and give it to you for
$99.99.
Right, but it's still
or
$100.
like, $199.99, and you're like, oh, okay.
Great deal. Come on, you've all signed up.
So in that context, OTTs came and was like, hey, you can get all this content. We basically put it all together, very easily accessible, and only $10 a month. You know, like that just kind of
blew our mind.
And that was why the OTT was the hero that kind of came as far as from a consumer standpoint. Yeah. And then obviously, like, years have passed. The competition, everybody started getting on board. And
didn't you say it was a friendly competition?
Yeah, it was.
He said friendly war.
What does that even mean?
Exactly.
Well, the war is going on, and more and more people are putting their like hats into the ring, and like that's why you've got so many competitors, so many OTTs.
Yeah, but okay, so for me, for myself, for cable and internet together, I pay like maybe $30 US.
In Korea, though.
In Korea.
Yeah.
And already I only subscribe to 2 OTT platforms or services. And with those, just with that, I know I pay more than like 20 something bucks. So it's like, I don't know. OTT isn't my hero.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
it's costly.
Starting
Exactly.
to look
So-
less and less like a hero.
It's becoming the villain.
Dun dun dun. Oh, come on,
No,
Nari.
no, I did it once. I can't do it again. Please go on, Isaac.
Have you tried to cancel cable in Korea?
But I can only imagine.
I did it.
Try to cancel my
did it.
cable,
I did
I have
it.
to cancel my internet, I have to cancel my phone, I
Right,
have
it's
to
a
cancel
package
several
deal.
family members' everything.
Not
Family
true.
members is
Not true. You could just pay them separately. But if you do
Oh, that's
cancel
true.
it, I was like,
Yeah.
you know, I was thinking, hey, if I cancel my cable, it'll be
Yeah.
cheaper, right?
Right.
Guess how much I save?
How much did you
Like
say?
$2.
$4.
It's not worth
It's
it.
not worth canceling, right?
Well, unless,
So
I mean, you add
That's
up.
why in Korea versus like other states where cable is expensive, there's a difference, you know. And for example, when the major OTT platforms came into Korea, they faced a lot of resistance because people were saying exactly what Nari said, which is, wait, it costs how much? Like, I pay $30 already, and you want me to pay like $15, like more? Like, you know, it became like OTTs are known to be expensive.
Yeah.
And it reached a point where eventually where you had to go and watch it because that content king had to be watched, and so you would go in and pay and put up the money and you had to watch it. So in that kind of like in Korea, definitely it didn't come as a hero, and it showed its true self.
Oh,
it's a business.
Oh, I mean, we knew it was a business. And frankly speaking, I mean, we have those family plans, right? Where you can subscribe to one service and you're maybe a member of 4 members in your family can share that one ID, for example, right?
Now, yeah.
And now, right. And even that is...
It's iffy too. Yeah.
It's iffy. There are boundaries and, certain streaming giant leaders are kind of half threatening that if you abuse that, it might be taken away from us.
Yeah.
So it's very it's I don't think that it's like done, you know, the streaming war and the question of who's the hero. It's not set, and you know, I wanted to talk about it because it's really up in the air. There's so many things that can happen, but currently, just that the history of how OTT was seen as a hero, I thought was very important to just kind of talk about, because the question still exists. Is the statement is that we need a hero, meaning the hero is not, the savior is not here. You know, like in this kind of landscape, you know, the hero that we thought was OTT has evolved.
Man,
I disagree with the hero statement just from the beginning. So just because for me, it is very time consuming. Now there's too much content. I know that it gives room for all these creators to thrive and to put their stuff out there. But there's too much. And I'm torn between what to watch. And so I said earlier, like sometimes I just turn something on just to have it on and be like, I got my me time, but I don't even know what I'm watching.
Do you think we represent a different generation, though? There is
what?
Like a whole... I said we. I said we. I did not single you out. Calm down, Nari.
It could be generational. Okay. It could be geographical.
It could be geographical, too. It could be a number of different demographics that we look at. But my point being, there is an entire, maybe generation, a group of people who are excited about...
They grew up with it.
Right. All of the options, and they like to cherry pick, whatever they need to watch. But I'm with you, Nari. I'm all about my old school TV shows until they take it away, which, by the way, I heard one of my streaming services is doing next year in Korea, and that kind of broke my heart.
Yeah.
Why did they do that?
Because it'll be on another one, and it'll be on the other one, and you got to subscribe to that
what's
one.
What's happening? Okay,
yes.
You know what? I do want to talk about like these programming directors, the people who choose what their platform is gonna start distributing, because I think that job is insane to me. Can you imagine the responsibility of having that on your shoulders? Like, this OTT service is gonna now be streaming this, and like,
it's a lot of trend testing, isn't it?
It is.
But I feel like that's a lot of data crunch,
and a lot of money. Like, is this a very lucrative thing to go into?
Well, it is. There are market. There are market factors, like a lot of the content is carved up. So one show will be visible, you could watch it in Korea. But then if you went to America, that show might not work on your OTT platform. You're still connected to the service, but because of what your location, who owns or not own, but who bought the licensing rights for that, show in that region, that's where all the business factor, really impacts the consumer. Then some people will go and, that's why they'll open up the VPN, because like they want to watch, that show that is only available in, there's all these complications.
Well, not only that, but I do know some people who they like getting VPNs because, for example, like Korean content will be released in Korean and maybe but they won't have the dubbing or the subtitles yet. For it in English.
Right.
And a lot of people, we have a lot of international groups in Korea, and they really want to access this content, but they can't get the subtitles.
Right.
Because for all the users here, they're just like, oh, they're Korean, so they don't need subtitles.
Well, and also previously when we were watching, holiday movies, in Korea, like during the holiday season, like they either are subbed and dubbed, and those movies are usually old ones, right? You can't get the newest films that are the dubbing and the subbing isn't always the quickest, turnaround. So if English is not your first language, then like you're limited to what you can actually consume yourself, just because of all these different kinds of factors.
All right, guys. So we talked about content being king and then distribution being God. We kind of opened up the question of we need a hero, only to say there's a history of heroes turning out to be villains. So we extend that question once more. Who's the hero?
Welcome back to Why Not Talk About OTT. I'm Isaac, and I'm with Nari and Lina.
Look what he did there.
What?
He switched the order.
I did.
Did he?
Are you pleased?
Oh, I wasn't listening. Please go again.
Is that illegal?
Yeah, Lina.
All right, guys.
What's the point here?
We're talking about OTT. That's the point.
Yes, and whether it's a hero, right? And I say definitely not, because it is just giving me too many choices, and it's like I get flustered. Okay, I'm not part of the young generation. I'm not like old, but I'm right in that happy sweet spot, I'd like to say, although maybe not always. And for me, I kind of like having less options. I know that sounds weird, but like I go to like a ice cream shop that has 30 plus flavors, and then I'm like,
don't know what to choose.
Yeah, I'm like, can I just try a little bit of every single one? And they're like, please get out. You know, I mean, I don't go through that with OTT, but that's what I'm saying. If I sampled every OTT content, it would just take me the rest of my life. I'd never get through anything.
I think Nari is a naturally very curious person. And if all of the options are presented to her, she'd want to at least give everything a go.
Yeah.
Not everyone is like that, Nari.
Oh, okay. I thought that was everyone's normal process. Like, I got to try everything.
Yeah.
And then you pick whatever you like from everything.
But I also agree with Nari in the sense that we don't like all of the options. I think we like things curated to us. But I do think OTT platforms are really clever in that they curate exactly what they want us to watch.
Well, sometimes they cater it for you. They basically curate it for you.
Which I don't really believe in. This whole algorithm thing, I feel like, a certain platform, if they have their own original creations, I mean, they're blasting it in my face because it's not a coincidence that you scroll down to their original creations and certainly blows up in size and plays a trailer for you with a dun dun dun, like crazy music. Yeah.
The amount of OTT players in this streaming war has, grown, right? And obviously in the last couple of years, because of the pandemic or whatever, like just the growth of the industry has brought in a lot more players in.
Like so I just want to know, like, who are the major, like certain names, and I'm hearing about all these like different M&As of different companies, just networking, broadcasting, like everything. These companies that are just doing everything, even like really well-known like cinematic powerhouses, right? They're all cashing in on this OTT game.
Yeah, they're trying to get that content that they have to as many eyes as they can. And the easiest way is over the top.
That will never stop being funny.
It's just that, it makes me giggle a little bit.
But like, not only the big players, there's also very small players. You mentioned how like curation is like something you would like to see. There's actually small OTT players, names that probably no one has ever heard of, that actually just focus on just indie films or rom-coms or just stream sports and just stream, dramas and just stream concerts. And some of them, they actually have their own app. And some of them are, because of depending on the content, some of them are free. So some of them will, you don't even need to pay a subscription model. You don't have to pay anything. You just basically you give them your email, right, and your personal information. And then,
that's it.
You just give them that, and then they let you watch like classic movies, classic musicals, or things like that.
Okay, all the cookies and call it a day. Yeah. Okay.
So there's a bunch of OTT players. The big names, the ones that you pay a lot for, the middle names that you pay a little bit, and they give you some. They might even have an advertiser funded version of it, so you can watch it with ads. So I mean, even like the big players, you don't expect to see ads when you watch, when you're binge watching your show. That's one of the great things.
Yeah, but they gotta make money somehow,
right? And they giving you that ad option is a way for people to do it. And there's players like that, and then there's like even like just totally free players. All you have to give them is your email, and for the access that you can get, that content there obviously is going to be differentiated, but those kinds of players are all in the market right now. And because everybody's getting into it, and as they are growing, there's so much competition that they're starting to get bought. They're being bought, they're being merged. There's a lot of this, like, sometimes your favorite platform will disappear because it got swallowed up by a bigger fish,
Yes. Yeah.
And that bigger fish will make a massive announcement saying, come next year, you get all of these contents exclusively on our platform. So it's no longer free anymore. But maybe these mergers are not necessarily a bad thing, because doesn't it also give that small fish an opportunity to play with the major guys too? Or are we just feeding the massive system?
I think it could be both.
What is the last whale standing? You know what I mean? Like, we just keep on gobbling up these little fish, and then there's just going to be like one huge, company at the top just in charge of everything.
But isn't that just the nature of business? I mean, companies get bought out, they grow, they sell, and they sometimes...
Who will be the last whale standing? I want to know.
You're really stuck on that analogy, right? Last whale standing. That's a really funny image in my
whale
head.
Floating or swimming.
Oh.
Yeah.
Last whale to swallow up some other whale.
Yes. Yes, the biggest whale.
Should we talk about some of those mergers, though? I mean, because they're really major ones, and it's exciting for me because I didn't realize what it could potentially imply for the small dogs too.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Yeah.
I thought we were kind of stuck where we were with like the players that we know now.
Yep.
But there's new players, right?
Exactly. Like
And
this.
some of them are already big names that are merging with big names because they're trying to get at the bigger name, like
The biggest
Yeah.
name, because we established at the beginning that there
Can we
is.
call them whales? Like I thought I was establishing like a thing.
Okay, so the biggest whale right now is so far ahead that everyone's trying to play catch up, and
Yeah.
these mergers are kind of a bulletproof way to get there, don't you think? To become
Yeah.
one of the bigger whales. That's not sticking, Nari.
I'm sorry. I
and
tried.
we talked a little bit about like in previously, right? The reason why OTTs came out was it was a place where people could get different content, different whales content in one, app.
I see you trying, Isaac.
And
I
the
commend you.
the cable industry basically was upended by OTT, and now OTT is becoming like cable. You've got all these unique OTTs that are basically acting like their own like silos of content.
Yeah.
And in order, it'd be easier for some people to just be like, I just want to have one app or one service,
Yeah.
and I could watch everything. Those were the good old days. That was like when OTT was the hero.
Yeah. Is this going to be cyclical like most of history? Like, are we going back to, oh my goodness, video did not kill the radio star. I mean, a little bit, but are we going back to all of that? Like,
Are we not still on
I was
radio?
gonna say,
exactly.
isn't this radio?
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
is it going back to this? Like, is this going to be king now?
Well, the content
Is
will
it going
be
to
king.
implode?
The content is going to be king.
Now we've come
Okay.
back to the beginning
Yeah.
of the conversation.
But distribution is going
Yeah.
to be another level.
And then once we have all these like satellites in space,
what is happening?
all this like connectivity will be just out of this world, literally, and distribution will be even faster. It'll be everywhere. Right now, like 51% of the world only like 51% of the world gets internet access.
Right.
So like easily, and once we have all these satellites up, then everyone's going to have more access.
More internet, more OTT on top of that.
Yeah.
Now the whale is even bigger then.
Yeah.
There's a lot of growth to be seen. Yeah.
Is there, because I feel like, is there one point where it's just fully saturated and then you just are like, oh, okay, we have to go back to radio because we have nowhere else to go?
I don't think that's a possibility. Do you really believe that, Nari?
Well,
I don't know. I miss the old days.
like you said, like radio didn't get killed by
did
video.
not. And magazines did not get killed off completely by
Yeah.
online publication.
Or papers.
But it's like if ever radio had a monopoly on the content, like video came in and they now share. And now OTTs are sharing that space, and
they just take a bigger portion of the pie. And
the pie keeps growing,
Yeah.
and the portions keep shifting.
Yeah, exactly.
So when more and more people get connected, and more people want the content, like I think it doesn't necessarily mean like one's going to get killed. Like radio is not going to go away.
Can I ask you something? As you work at a pretty big OTT related service. Have you ever talked about like 100% saturation?
No, I don't think that's ever.
Is that not even on the book? Because I feel like at one point,
like I don't think I've heard saturation used. That's not a word that I've ever heard in the content space. Like, yeah. There's so much room for. I mean, you're right that some people they feel inundated with content, but the audiences, and if you look at like non-English content, right? Like Parasite, and like when director Bong was talking about the subtitles, right? Like there's huge audiences that have never experienced non-English content.
Yeah.
And then that is like reflected in, or that's obvious. That's in every kind of language or in every fraction. Like there's gonna be people who are in Korea that have never been able to enjoy Hollywood or American content because only a sliver of it has been actually subbed or dubbed. But now with all these OTTs, everything in like the libraries of these studios is
and
getting
their archives.
in their archives is getting all they have to do is apply subtitles, and then now there's an audience, and so it goes both ways. But because there's such a global content market, I think that there's still room, and saturation is, I think, we're
far from it. Really?
So you might, if you think like saturation in the sense like I'm saturated with content, like I can't take any more, that might happen on a person by person case.
I mean, I'm not talking about personally, but I love these topics. Content is king. Is it? Yes.
Distribution is
but
God.
Distribution is God. Well, as Isaac likes to say, if a tree falls in the forest and blah, blah, blah.
Do you say that, Isaac?
He does. He keeps on telling me that, and no one's there to hear it.
So I was trying to say that
it's true.
Content is king, right? But if you make a great show and nobody sees the show, then is it a great show? Like people have to see it. Yeah, and the way you see it is the channels of distribution is what allows people to have access to this. It's about not only making great content, but having an audience that will appreciate it.
And
then
connecting them.
Right. And if you don't have that, then there is no, the content is not really, is it real? The tree falls in the forest, no one hears it. Doesn't make a sound.
And as for who is the hero, I guess we leave that with all the distributors, because you also wield so much power and influence, and what you do with it, I guess consumers are smart now. We'll hold you accountable. That's not a threat.
With great power. Here's another one coming your way. Another saying: with great power comes great responsibility.
Heavy is the head. Have we dropped all of the cliches?
We could. But we're out of time.
We're out of time. Can I do a shameless plug-in for next week? Because next week, guess what? It's the holidays.
Yay.
And to bring in the joyful spirit, we'll be talking about happiness. Happiness. And it doesn't have to be such a one-dimensional depiction of happiness. That's all I want to give away for the time being. But join us again next week for a discussion on that. It's been great pleasure, Isaac and Nari. I've been Lena.
She's been Lina-ing, and I'm Nari.
And you're Nara-ing. And I'm Isaac-ing to say thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Until next week.